So that's the data deluge for the internet. Now we come to the data deluge for business, and this is just the first part of that. It will be continued in the next presentation. Here's an exciting example because it's sort of different. This comes from the IBM talk in the Berkeley Big Data Conference. It says that company Vestas uses 2.5 petabytes of information to optimize the placement and the performance of its wind turbines. So this is sort of interesting that even such a relatively seemingly straightforward thing of putting these relatively simple looking wind turbines up, there's a lot of clever processing can be done to look at the weather and to monitor the performance of these systems to get a much more efficient, cost-effective generation of power from these wind turbines. And here it says that the data volume is expected to grow to 6 petabytes. Here's another very important example from the Dublin city centre, which is an example one example of the Internet of Things. Namely, we can imagine taxis, buses, and eventually all personal cars having sensors telling you everything about them. This allows you, and of course, we know that's sort of already true for things like UPS and FedEx trucks, where the company can track the where the packages are and where the drivers are. And so this will monitor the performance of roads and where the traffic jams are. That's Shanghai has already some time ago did that type of application, feeding data from taxis back into their supercomputer. And here and for Dublin, they give the example of 600 buses being monitored, and it is meant to help people know when their bus comes and encourage more people to take bus transportation because they'll have greater knowledge of where the status is of that transportation system at any time. Here's an example from a relatively simple thing, seemingly, which is to do automatic processing of customer records produced by telephone calls. And the claim is that they've reduced the processing of data from 12 hours to 1 second, and actually a substantially reduced hardware costs by implementing a modern data analytics solution to analyze the so-called CDR or core data record processing. And the final example in this section comes from General Electric. And it's another example of what I like the Internet of Things, namely, is we not only have people using the internet, we have all these things on the internet. And one of the things on the internet we already saw in the Dublin city centre example was vehicles with sensors. Well, an important vehicle with a sensor is an aircraft, and aircraft can monitor its performance just as, in fact, cars can. Another example of which I read about recently was auto insurance, where adding telemetry monitoring to the way people drive cars can find out people who are driving well and therefore could be maybe get a reduced insurance rate. And that's sort of an amusing thing to think of doing. So anyway, if we come to this example from General Electric, they point out that whereas Twitter only has 80 gigabytes of data per day, if they look at their gas turbines, they produce 588 gigabytes of data per day. So these are the sensors monitoring the behavior of these engines. And there were early examples of this, and I assume this is what is also followed now. They had these sensors on engines sending the data back to processing houses, which are effectively clouds. Those would run data analytics programs on the sensor data and allow you to run various sort of prediction programs to see when there was a problem possibly coming up, so that when that aircraft landed, the mechanics would know very well what to do to actually make the engine and the aircraft run well in a safe, efficient fashion. Um, so here is the final slide here, which comes from this General Electric case. General Electric, of course, is a major U.S. Aircraft engine manufacturer, along with Pratt & Whitney, and they have 3.6 million flight records per month. And clearly, this is an exciting application of the data deluge, where we have sophisticated analytics on this sensor data. So we will continue this with the next section, which will happen to correspond to the next lesson, because you're all tired by now. Thank you very much. I'm Jeffrey Fox, signing off for the day.